Hi there, these comments are for BE. I am Michael from OTCOnline I hope that you and your family had a very Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year 2021. It's got to be better than 2020. That's my motto. All right, so I'm getting ready to listen to several different speaking practice tests you sent me over the last couple of days. So let's start with the integrated speaking right now.
The reading passage explains an academic concept called the goal displacement, and the professor in the lecture gives an example of schools to further illustrate the idea.
Okay.
Goal displacement, according to the passage, is described as the rules and requirements applied by an organization in order to achieve a needed goal. But sometimes employees could focus more on rules and they will miss the goal. Moreover,
I would probably say sometimes employees focus more on blah, blah, blah. I don't think there's any need to say could focus. But you got a good organization on this one. Okay, and we keep going here.
Professor gives an example of schools to illustrate the concept. Firstly, he says that sometimes schools require to be on time just to attend the class. So teachers sometimes impose this policy and students could force this policy and came late.
So they impose this policy maybe on students. Impose on is kind of how we use that verb. So they impose this policy on their students.
Then they will miss the opportunity to learn better and they will miss the opportunity to attend the class. That's how the professor illustrates this concept.
So I think with your pacing, you did really well in the beginning. When you moved over to the lecture, that's where you had some problems with your pacing. So be careful about that. I'm going to put your score at 23 to 25 points out of 30. I think it's a pretty strong response. It's organized. It's developed, complete, accurate. I think you didn't have any major language use issues. You did have some minor delivery issues. All right, thank you. So for TOEFL integrated task number 3 that I just listened to, I put you around 23 to 25 points. Mainly, speech is generally clear, minor difficulties with pronunciation, intonation, or pacing. I think pacing. That's why I scored you the way I did. Okay, let's listen to this next one. So now we're looking at integrated speaking task number 2. It's task number 4. It's listening, speaking, academic. That's the one you're looking at right now. Okay, so let's listen to your TOEFL integrated task number 4, listening, speaking, academic. This is always a hard one. It's hard to be completely accurate, to represent the most important information there.
In the lecture, the professor gives examples of ways used by predators to hunt for.
Nah, don't send me a practice test when you start out like that. Get it right from the beginning. If you start out with a lot of pacing issues, that creates the wrong impression and it's hard to get a good score.
Animals that live in groups. And then gives 2 examples to further illustrate the idea.
Okay, so you have your organization, right? So you explain the concept, and then the professor gives 2 examples to illustrate the point. So then, based on that structure, you first give a definition of the academic concept according to the professor, and then second, you explain the 2 examples, and you show how they further illustrate the idea.
Animals, according to the professors, live in group to protect themselves from the predators.
Okay.
Predators developed 2 ways to overcome this problem. The first way is to identify.
Maybe say predators, according to the professor, develop 2 ways, blah, blah, blah. So don't forget those voice markers every now and then. That becomes very, very important for your organization. And also it makes it more formal, like a summary, an academic summary.
Some animals with a different look, which has different features from.
Some animals maybe have a different look, maybe. Let's listen to that one more time.
Problem. The first way is to identify some animal with a different look, which has different features.
No, some animals have a different look, which have different features. So I would use the have and then which, so you have a verb in that independent clause.
From the other group. And she gives example of minerals which sometimes have a different color.
No, she gives examples of minerals, or to further illustrate, to really help illustrate the concept, she gives the example of minerals.
Than the similar color of the group, which can be easily catched by the predator.
Which can be easily caught by the predator. Can be caught. So you're using passive voice there. So passive voice is formed by form of the verb be and the past participle. That's what you're looking for, but you didn't really correctly form that verb string. So be careful.
Then the second way is physically, and she gives an example of...
The second way of what? I would restate that concept, that academic concept right there, to help tie this back to the beginning of your response.
Sharks, which can by their tails scatter the group into individuals, which is easily directed and located by the predator.
Okay, so let me listen to this one more time. I had to start and stop it quite a bit, so, and then I can give you an accurate score. I'm guessing not quite 23 on this one.
In the lecture, the professor gives examples of ways used by predators to hunt for animals that live in groups, and then gives two examples to further illustrate the idea. Some animals, according to the professors, live in groups to protect themselves from the predators. Predators developed two ways to overcome this problem. The first way is to identify some animal with a different look, which has different features from the other group. And she gives example of minerals which sometimes have a different color other than the similar color of the group, which can be easily catched by the predator. Then the second way is physically, and she gives an example of sharks which can by their tails scatter the group into individuals.
No, the second way is physical, or the second way is a physical way, but that's redundant. But when you use is, typically we don't put adverbs directly after is. You're trying to use physical as a subject complement, right? And subject complements can be either adjectives or nouns, but not adverbs.
Which is easily directed and located by the predator.
Okay, so I think my score was pretty accurate, so I'm going to say a little bit below 2 on this one. You had some problems with pacing. You also had some language use issues, one of which, of course, was forming the passive voice in a verb string. I'm going to put you between 2.5 and 3, let's say 21 to 22 points out of 30 on this practice test. For this next practice test, you're doing a Toefl independent speaking task. So the prompt is, some people prefer getting information from books. Others prefer using a computer to access information via the internet. Which do you prefer and why? I have the independent speaking rubrics right in front of me. So do you like printed books to get information from, or do you rather use the internet to get information from? And here is your practice test.
I prefer getting information via the internet by using a computer because it's more convenient and of course it's cheaper. First, getting information by using the internet is more easier than reading a book.
Now, you don't have to say more easier, right? So easy is a 2-syllable adjective, and it's pretty common to just say easier. This writing task is easier than the one I completed last week, so you don't have to say it's more easier. Now, usually with more, you'll use more with 3 or more syllable adjectives. For example, if I said, this student is more intelligent than Tom. So I don't say intelligenter. I just say more intelligent than Tom is, right? So just be careful about your 1, 2, and 3 syllable adjective. Typically, 1 syllable adjectives will take ER or EST. Now, with Two syllable, it could be both. It could be more, most, or er or est. With three or more syllable adjectives, it's more common to put more or most before the adjectives, and that's how you form adjectives with comparative and superlative meanings.
For example, if I'm looking for any information about any subject, I can easily search by using Google, and I will immediately find the answer. Second, using the internet is
Now, instead of saying for, I can just say, for example, I was trying to learn more about the coronavirus last week, particularly how many cases there were in my country of Egypt. And by using the internet, I could quickly find out that, there were 1,000 new cases of the virus in my country. So try to get a little more specific with the examples you use.
cheaper than buying a book to illustrate. Books are more expensive than only getting an access to information in the internet. That's why I prefer internet. I prefer getting
Okay, so I think this is a decent response. I'm not quite sure. I don't think you would get 26. I'm going to say 23 to 25 on this one. I'm going to listen to it one more time, I think, just to make sure. So I think you had maybe one or two problems with language use. You could probably do a little bit better with the specificity of the examples that you use. That's my first take with looking at that particular. Okay, let's go ahead and listen to this one more time.
information via the internet by using a I prefer getting information via the internet by using a computer because it's more convenient and of course it's cheaper. First, getting information by using the internet is more easier than reading a book. For example, if I'm looking for any information about any subject, I can easily search by using Google, and I will immediately find the answer. Second, using the internet is cheaper than buying a book to illustrate. Books are more expensive than only getting an access to information in the internet. That's why I prefer internet. I prefer
Okay, I'm now listening to another integrated. I think this is integrated speaking practice number 2. So you got the reading, the campus announcement, the letter. You have a student or student discusses that. So it's kind of reading, listening, speaking, more campus related. So the vocabulary is much easier on this task. Okay, here we go.
According to an article in the university's newspaper, the university is to build a cafeteria in the library. The university thinks that students need to eat without leaving the library. Also, students need short breaks while they are working. However, the woman disagrees with this proposal. She believes that the library's cafeteria will offer unhealthy snacks, so students will rely on only junk foods while other cafeteria offers healthy food. Moreover, because of these short breaks, students will be chatting and hanging out in this cafeteria, so other students will not be able to concentrate while they are working on actual work. That's
How about while they are studying or completing their assignments, you might say?
why the woman disagrees with this proposal, because of the disturbance and the unhealthy food.
Wow. And your last sentence kind of ties in the two reasons that the speaker suggests, or it's why the speaker opposes the plan. This is the best one so far. Wow. I like this one. I'm going to say 25 to 27 points on this. I think you had maybe some minor delivery issues, maybe some minor pacing issues, but you're speaking pretty quickly. You have fluidity of expression. Your tone was pretty good. You didn't really mispronounce anything in a major way that I couldn't understand what you're saying. You also had pretty good control over your language use, right? So That's a good one. This is a good one. This is what you're looking for. This is what I think is going to help you get the 26 is a practice test just like that. You got to repeat this 4 times in a row, right? And then you know you'll probably be between 26 and 30 points. So good job on that. Okay, I'm listening to integrated speaking task number 3. So this is reading, listening, speaking, academic. So the last one, that was a good one. You got 25 to 27 points. That probably means you got a good shot at getting 26 on that. Okay, so let's listen to your next practice test. This is integrated speaking task number 3.
The reading passage explains an academic concept called the paradox of choice, and the professor in the lecture gives a personal experience when he was buying jeans to further illustrate the idea.
Okay.
Paradox of choice, according to the passage,
Good.
is described as the process in which people have, people have more options.
Keep going,
they will
man.
do
This is
more
good.
effort to choose between these options, which leads to dissatisfaction. Moreover, the professor gives his personal experience.
Be careful
to
for the
further
pacing.
illustrate the concept. First, when he was attending to buy a new pair of jeans, he had many options related to the style or the color, so he ended up having more than one option, which led to having a headache at the end and dissatisfaction and being anxious. The reading
Okay, so I think you had a little bit of trouble with pacing, right, when you got to the listening passage. I think other than that, you're speaking pretty fluently, coherently, clearly. What I would do at the very end is show when you get to the end of your response how that example again ties back to the concept you mentioned in the beginning, and that might create a little bit better what we call integration or integrating of ideas there. That's my only comment. But overall, I think we're in pretty good shape here. I'm going to put you at 24 to 26 points on this practice test. I think it's if we look over at the rubrics, I think speech is generally pretty clear. You have good control of basic and complex grammar. You have clear progression of ideas, and you've done what you're supposed to do as required by the task. Maybe some minor problems with pacing. Okay? So with your final practice test that you sent me, you're doing, it looks like Toefl speaking or integrated speaking task number 4. So we have a lecture. Okay, let's listen to it. Let's see how you did on this.
In the lecture, the professor explains why forests have many benefits to the forest ecosystem and then gives 2 examples to further illustrate the idea.
Okay, so I think that I've noticed that your practice tests, they get a little bit better as you go. So I think this practice you're doing is actually pretty good, right? So get in the habit of sending me something about every day. I think you do better when you practice day by day instead of meeting just once a week, and talking to me on a Friday. I like how you're doing maybe some practice each day. I think that seems to do really well with your English.
Forest fires, according to the professor, are the key element for a healthy ecosystem.
Are the key elements. You want to make elements plural.
The professor gives 2 examples. The first example is the pine trees. Pine trees need to spread the seeds, and thanks to fires, the cones of the pine trees will be melted and the seeds will be released. So the young generation will grow. In the second example, the fire will reduce the density of the forest by killing some trees, and then new shrubs and grass will grow, and this will be the new habitats for some animal species.
Okay, I think you had a few delivery issues with this one, right? So I'm going to say maybe 23 to 25 points on this. Let's listen to it one more time. I'm not going to stop it at
In
all,
the
and I'll give you a
lecture,
score.
the professor explains why forests have many benefits to the forest ecosystem and then gives two examples to further illustrate the
That's good
idea.
structure for your
Forest
introduction.
fires, according to the professor,
I
are
like the
key
voice marker
element
there.
for a
Good.
healthy ecosystem. The professor gives two examples. The first example is the pine trees. Pine trees need to spread the seeds, and thanks to fires, the cones of the pine trees will help will be
This is a
melted
little bit of
and the
pacing
seeds
trouble
will be
right there.
released. So the young generation will grow. In the second example, the fire will reduce the density of the forest by killing some trees, and then new shrubs and grass will grow, and this will be the new habitats for some animal species.
Yeah, so I think maybe a little sentence rhythm. For example, they will grow. If you have an auxiliary and a main verb, put more stress in the main verb, less stress on the auxiliary verb there. The exception is when the auxiliary verb is negative, like I can't go to the store. I can go to the store. Okay, so let me take a look at it here. Yeah, I think that my score 23 to 25 points on this. You had some minor problems with delivery, maybe with pacing, thought groups blending, some of those things. So that's why I'm giving you the score that I am. But overall, I think this is a pretty good set. You sent me, several different. You sent me a full set of speaking, right? So I think based on all those four things you sent me, you're probably looking. I'm going to say maybe 24 points. That would be my goal. If you put everything together, you're probably right around 24 points, with keeping all the speaking together and putting them together there. Okay, so good job on that. Thank you for sending me your practice test. Keep up the good work. And remember, Happy New Year 2021.